Welcome everybody. This is the last of our recap sessions that we're filming here at the University of Southampton with our large group that you can't see but we can, large group of MSc students here, and one or two or even three willing volunteers who are helping us out with this final video. So we just wanted to say a few words really to sum up what we feel about the course and what we've learned, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. We've seen lots of really positive feedback, which is great. So thank you very much for that. Perhaps I could ask Mike first of all. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to
in the final
bring
week,
in?
I think the thing that stood out for me in terms of content was the stuff on gamification, because this is close to home. And I think that showed that it was quite surprising how few people had really thought about this, but it showed that we're still talking about innovative stuff, and often stuff we think is kind of, we know all about this, it's well established. You realise it isn't well embedded in marketing knowledge. So it's quite interesting to see people's response to that, and I think we'll still see more growth in gamification. In terms of the overall thing, I think that the two things stood out to me in people's comments and reflections. One is it was good to see people saying, I'm going to now go and do something. And it wasn't just businesses, it was people talking about NGOs and people talking about kind of quite small businesses, and they've got some practical knowledge from it. I think that was quite important. And the other thing was that sense of people kind of actually reflecting on it, which was a big part of the content, of there are things here I hadn't thought about. And I think that is a big part of our master's higher education, so it was good to see that reflected in the community online.
Great, thank you. And what about you guys? Any thoughts?
I feel like there was a big contribution in terms of what people have done in the past, so from previous jobs, experience, all that, and it was quite noticeable on this last week when we talked about analytics. Lots of people had experience. Oh, I've used this, I've used that. Oh, that doesn't really work. Or you should try this one. This is free, this is not free. So I think that kind of past experience really showcased there, which is quite good. And I also thought gamification was quite a nice topic, even though we mostly spoke about in terms of organizations itself, not like in education, which is also pretty big, and there are also some schools trying to develop it, so I thought it was nice.
Okay, great. So you'll be benefiting from people sharing their examples. Great.
So on reflection for me, I think two of the big topics that I encountered over the course of the MOOC was the digital ownership. I think that's going to be a massive topic going forward in terms of legislation, because everyone's moving to a subscription-based model. Cable TV, as everybody kind of knows, is dying, and it is a big issue in terms of who owns that digital content. And as a second thing, as a marketing analytics student, I thought the topic of analytics is obviously interesting. The problem I have with it is that we can't let big data to become one of those buzzwords that content marketing that everybody says, but nobody actually knows what it means. So for me, I think that's a very big issue that people in marketing, not just marketing analytics students or people in the field, but everyone should get a better holistic knowledge of.
Great, thank you.
So for myself, I think I'll touch on the third week as well of the MOOC. I find that what actually caught my attention was the personal data economy. I think as we're actually moving towards that era, a lot of big companies are trying their best to actually work their way around this. And it's very interesting to see how big companies are actually tapping on this idea of personal data economy, where in the past people actually just give their data freely. But now, when we actually are desensitized from the idea of giving our data for free, people actually realize that it is actually our data is actually valuable to companies, not only to big companies but to small medium enterprises as well. That is pretty much about the third week. But just to wrap up on the entire MOOC, I feel that it is actually a good course for us to actually understand the whole idea behind the entire discourse about the divide between theory and practice, because it's very interesting to see where people are from the industry and how the academics are actually theorizing every single thing. But what I find something that is really prevalent was the fact that we actually focus a lot on small medium enterprises, and I think most of them who actually are in this course are actually getting something from there. Yeah, so just sharing the idea of like, I mean, especially for the last week where I really can't remember who, but actually went through like which analytical tools are actually good for, for different kinds of things. But I think the idea that a lot of the practice in the industry is lacking is the understanding of theorizing some things, because we take, I mean, for based on an academic perspective, we sit down and think about how these things actually occur. But when you're in practice, these things doesn't matter at all to them. You see, they just want, it's just all about profits at the end of the day. Yeah, so it's interesting to see that from a academic, student, we take a step back, and instead of just thinking about profits, we do theorize some of the things that is prominent in the industry as well. Yeah.
Great. So you're saying there's something for everyone then, really?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything?
No, what about you though? You haven't said much.
Oh well, I've got some
Last
notes
week
here.
I told them you were off on a croft raising sheep,
Yes,
so
you
we're
did,
surprised to see you
yes.
back.
Yes, and here I am, back again. And perhaps this was a sheep at one time. Anyway, enough of that. Just a few closing points. If you've enjoyed this course, which hopefully most of you have from the comments, that's very kind of you. We've enjoyed it, certainly, and we've learnt a lot from your examples. If you're game for more, next week the Web Science MOOC starts, so you can move seamlessly from one to the other. And in 2 weeks' time, the Power of Social Media MOOC starts. So there's lots more options if you'd like to pick up on any of these themes in more detail in other courses. In the last step on this particular MOOC, we asked you to reflect and perhaps use some of the tools that we've been discussing on the course, and use the hashtag DM reflection, and perhaps just post a blog post or even just a tweet or a video even with your thoughts, and we can share those, collect them together and share them on our blog. That would be a really nice thing to do, to pull everything together at the end of the course. And as Mike keeps saying, Mike's been spamming the discussion
Facebook
boards
group.
about the Facebook group.
Yeah.
So yes, you're very welcome to join the Facebook group with all of these guys.
Yeah, are you able to are you able to take a picture of them or show all of them? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll add in a picture right there. Thanks, Ashley. you can tell it's the last video, can't you?
Yeah.
And I think we're probably better shut up now.
Thank you.
So
Goodbye.
thank you very much. Goodbye.